Hello, this is Stan, and I trust that you have done whatever you want to do and what you're supposed to do and what you feel God has led you to do on this election day. There are people who say, no matter what, get out and vote. No, not necessarily. Don't let other people tell you what to do. Be guided by other things than that. But for whatever God had in tune for you today, I hope you've been able to play it and make the music that way. I'm just going to take a few minutes today because you've got other things to do, but I did want to challenge you with a couple things. So if you'll give me just a few minutes, we'll do just that. These principles. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free. 'Tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. And it will be the story for tomorrow. I'm looking forward to reading more about it because I knew a lot about it, but now I'm going to find out even more about it. Actually, radio, which is one of my real loves in life, is really 100 years old, just about today. That's right, KDKA, the first kind of a real talking public broadcasting radio station in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, went on the air, and the first thing they did was they broadcast the election results. And as they say, there's more to the story, and the rest is history, but there's a lot more to it than that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that and perhaps ask you to think about that, because I'd like to talk to you more about it, along with one of my friends, and perhaps it might even have a message and a little bit of an inspiration for you, because on this 100th year, it is now possible for everybody, including you, to be on the radio. And I have one more thing. Let me add that in just a moment. While listening to the radio, it just so happened that I had clicked on the Beatles channel. Now, I don't listen to that too often, but from time to time, because it certainly reminds me of my youth, and because I've actually discovered that there was more to the Fab Four than just the music that they did, that in many cases you've got four young men who are trying to figure out, in the chaos and crisis of the 1960s, what life was all about. And many of us of that age and stage understand that, and in fact, in some cases, we're still going through that. But I heard an interview that was done, obviously, many years ago with John Lennon, and the point of it was striking. What he essentially said was this: actually, we might have been better when we were broke. We might have been better when we were broke? Well, that's the paraphrase, but what he said is that after we made it, we all discussed this. We did this together. We came to the conclusion that making it was not everything it was supposed to be, and that actually, when we were really hot, I mean really good, was before we made it. And he goes on to explain very briefly that, you know what, they were struggling. I mean, you read the stories of the before famous Beatles driving to concerts even in the cold of British winter, and the little bus they had didn't even have a windshield, and they were trying to keep warm while they made their way to the concert. And then, of course, working 6 hours at a Hamburg nightclub in Germany. Well, here was the essence of John's comment. He said, yeah, now we've made it. We've certainly made it big time. But we all understand that perhaps before those days, when we had to work 6 hours a day, when we had to work always before a live audience and not just a studio apparatus, that's maybe when we were at our best. That's when we really were hot. Maybe we did our best work when we were broke and challenged and desperate to do good stuff. And we don't have any of that desperation anymore, far from it. Not that we don't do pretty good stuff, but could it be that we were at our best when we were broke? We were hottest before we made it. I'm just going to let that story do exactly what it did for me. I turned off the radio and I just sat and listened to myself for a while. Did I just hear some great wisdom? Something that's really vital? Something that we need to understand? That in our desire to make it, and maybe eventually most of us will make it, but I do know right now that there are some friends of mine who have worked very hard, and they've made it. And they're quite comfortable, quite secure. However, I must confess that they're not quite as creative. They're not quite as on the edge. To use their expression, they're not quite as hot as they were before. I'm trusting that in my brokenness, and broke in many ways, that will be a way for me to understand that maybe John Lennon, who got a lot of things wrong, but maybe he got it right. Sometimes we do our best when we are broke. 7 minutes. Just something to think about. And check the Wikipedia about KDKA. And tomorrow, perhaps, we'll talk a little bit about the birth of broadcasting and the new beginning for you. I'm Stan Houston. This is Ideas. Ideas. Influence. Impact. And income. Ideas, influence, and impact. And it is the new podcast of the Creator Entrepreneur Institute. All the best and blessings to you. We'll be back. And now please reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Reach out to me at stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. And I bet you have something you'd like to say on the radio. And now we're going to make it possible for that to happen. So why don't you think about that? And after the election time settles down, why don't you raise your hand and say, it's time for me to win and do something new. I want to be on a radio show with you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm Stan Houston. Best and blessings, indeed, and bye for now.